turning a new leaf doesn't just happen with one action or one moment. It's a constant decision to be better. For A-Train, there's nothing that I can do to fix what I've done except wake up and not make the same mistake again.
Do you think playing the role changed your ability to empathize and be sensitive to people who have substance use disorder?
Substance abuse in my family never looked like athleticism. It always looked like alcoholism or drug abuse. It just broadened my mind into the world of what substance abuse can look like.
Now you're seeing a bunch of young adults using peptides. They're ordering a bunch of stuff online. You don't...
And it's just like shrugged off and normal.
You graduated high school at 15.
Yeah.
Right? So that you're like a genius or a prodigy. I was still trying
I wouldn't say genius. I wouldn't say prodigy.
What are some of the lowlights where you felt like everything's going to shit and you're struggling and you got to pick up and dust off and not lose hope? Where's that in your story?
This episode of Candid Minds with Dr. T and Friends is brought to you by Mindful Care.
Before Mindful Care, my days were clouded with unease.
Now I manage my day with confidence.
Whether virtual or in person, Mindful Care is here for me when I need it with same or next day appointments.
There's no subscription, and they take almost all insurance coverage, including Medicare and Medicaid.
Real care, real simple, real affordable.
Join the Mindful Care community that has found healing with medication, therapy, and group therapy options.
Begin your transformative mental health journey today.
Welcome back to another episode of Candid Minds with Dr. T. I'm addiction psychiatrist, Dr. Tamir Aldad. I'm joined today by my good friend, Jessie T. Usher, best known for his role as A-Train on Amazon's The Boys. Jessie, super happy to have you on the show. Thank you for being on today.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So we talked a little bit before about the importance of advocating for mental health. Want to hear a little bit about what you're up to, your journey. I have tons of questions. But first and foremost, your character when thinking about A-Train. One question is, where do I get some compound V? But maybe that's like for offline. I think I think online though. Tell me a little bit about how you balance kind of like the seriousness of the topic, right? As somebody who treats substance use disorder, it's heavy, but then keeping that the character, interesting and dynamic and one that people could fall in love with and not getting too heavy. What was that like for you?
I asked a lot of questions. I specifically spoke with our showrunner and our writer a little bit about what the substance abuse looks like to an athlete. They sort of broke down the mindset of this character being in the position that he's in with the amount of pressure that he has and just sort of not even really willing to accept the reality of the situation that he's in and his need for power to stay on top just sort of became the driving force that just, he would turn a blind eye to almost everything else that he would do. The substance abuse was like, obviously his greatest downfall, but he excused himself from doing a lot of things that just sort of got in the way of his trajectory or, it got in the way of his desire to be the best or the fastest or, just not wanting to be killed. So, for him, he was focused on a lot of other things. And the compound V just seemed like a very small sacrifice, small price to pay, to stay in the world that he thought he wanted to be in. And that just sort of blurred all the lines, and then that's what the conversation with A-Train sort of became about is like, how do those lines get blurred? How does he, sleep at night? How can he sort of call himself the fastest and actually put on this persona that he's doing this all himself, but deep down knowing that it's because of the compound V. And really, I think what we sort of landed on was that a lot of times, we spoke about Lance Armstrong and a lot of athletes who use steroids and things of that nature. So when you have that goal in mind, and that's the only way that you can see through, the substance just doesn't seem like it's really doing what it is that it's doing to your body and to your mind and, to your soul. So we just had to put him in that place and then just let it all fall apart.
Interesting. Do you think playing the role and having to learn all that changed your ability to empathize and be sensitive to people who have substance use disorder?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think that, I started to, I started to sort of understand it from a different perspective. I think that I sort of, I don't know if I had the two different things correlated in the same way or in the same fashion, or, I think substance abuse in my family never looked like athleticism. Substance abuse in, with great uncles and grandparents and, whatever, what have you. It always just sort of looked like alcoholism or, drug abuse, but it never was like for performance sake. So I don't know if I considered the two to be the same until I started doing this show and started thinking about this character and the level of dependency that he had on the drug and the things that he was willing to do and the sacrifices that he was willing to make. And, just the moral compass sort of being twisted and turned, it just sort of seemed eerily familiar in a way that I didn't see coming. And I think because of that, the severity of it, when you just hear about somebody who's just, really jacked in the gym and he's, been on whatever substance for however long, that to me sort of mirrors what substance abuse looked like as I was, growing up and coming up. So I just think it just it just broadened my mind into the world of what substance abuse can look like.
Yeah. I mean, now you're seeing a bunch of young adults using peptides. They're ordering a bunch of stuff online. You don't, you know.
And it's just like shrugged off and normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's scary stuff.
Back in the day, people were like taking like traditional testosterone, tren,
right?
Like all these like, let's say, traditional bodybuilding gear and supplements. But now young adults, and I mean, anyone has access to ordering anything online. They don't know what they're taking. They don't know the quality of what they're taking.
Right.
They're shooting up stuff. Some are getting bigger, some aren't,
right.
But the risk is serious, especially if you don't know what you're putting in your body.
Right. Yeah, the risk is insane. I mean, I don't understand it, man. I go to the gym every day and I'm fine looking I always say, like, I don't feel the need to get that big or, what, I don't know what it is. Maybe I haven't spoken to enough people.
You might just naturally got the, the genes. It's different.
Nah, I'm skinny. I'm scrawny, bro. I work out every day and everybody's like, where? Like, nah, I just want to stay healthy and in shape. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I've never understood, the desire to look that big or to lean on substances to sort of compensate for what my body can't do.
What do you think the messaging is for fans who look at the character and see his struggle? What's the intended message? And then do you think it's landing the way it was always intended?
I think with A-Train, the intended message was like, it's changed a bit, from season 1 and 2, the message was a little bit more of like, just be careful because you don't know how far this thing can go. Like you can't really see how far you've gone. So, you have to be very careful. I do think that message landed, around the first and second season because, we showed A-Train sort of in the world of which he lived in, the excuses that he would make, the reasoning, the rationality. I think we sort of addressed it pretty head on, and that was his biggest monster. I think, as season 3 and 4 went on, we started to see what the substance abuse can do to your body and the fact that, he had convinced himself that he needed this stuff to even be who he was. He was willing to let his body deteriorate, even at the cost of his, even at the cost of his life because of this thing. And, I hope that landed. We actually did see it all the way through. He had the heart attack. He actually died. He needed a transplant. Without that, we wouldn't have this character in season 5.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah, yeah. But if you haven't seen season 3 and 4, I can't help you, man. I can't help you.
But
Yeah.
no, it's true. I mean, the character definitely has like a consistent storyline, right? Which makes sense, that evolved over time. But the sacrifice, the loss of control, that part is
Yeah.
very real. That I think, even though here we're talking about like performance enhancement, and you mentioned like drugs and alcohol and hard drugs, the loss of control is a theme that exists for everyone. Usually it starts with denial, and then eventually you realize like, oh shit, I'm really losing everything, right? And that part, you start paying a very heavy price. And then transplants are actually themes that exist, especially in alcohol, right? And I get that we're not, one to one, it's not the same, but
Right.
the word transplant in the world of substance use hits a chord, right? That's for a strong person with alcohol use disorder, it's a place you don't want to end up on that list, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that certainly is tough. How did you feel about the character eventually being rewritten?
Rewritten,
Yeah.
turned around.
Right.
Initially I didn't think that it could happen. I just thought that he had done so many bad things that there was just no way for him to sort of clean up his mess. But I guess the message, at the end of the day, the message that's being told through this character is that turning a new leaf, as they say, doesn't just happen with one action or one moment. It's a constant decision to be better. And that is the turn, that for A-Train, he's broken down, many times in front of different characters and sort of expressed that there's nothing that I can do to fix what I've done except wake up and not make the same mistake again.
So you think it's symbolic of getting a second chance at life?
I do.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. There's an episode where A-Train kills Blue Hawk, during the Herogasm episode, where he makes this decision where he's like, okay, if I do this thing, I know it's the right thing to do. I actually will die. And he's fine with it. That's like the resolute moment that he just sort of has, and he accepts his fate. And then he gets a second chance, not under the terms that he would have ever agreed to, but he does get a second chance. And then that becomes his new reckoning. That becomes the second or third theme of the character.
Yeah, which is really powerful. So
thanks. I didn't write it. I can't take it.
That is awesome. Another thing I wanted to kind of talk about is you graduated high school at 15.
Yeah.
Right? So that's you're like a genius or a prodigy. I was still trying
I wouldn't say genius. I wouldn't say prodigy. Yeah. I was hardworking, and I really wanted to take things to the next level with the job, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it was at that time I had already skipped, I think, 2 grades. So I just needed to sort of condense 2 additional into 1 year. So I didn't take any time off. I went to school, fall, winter, spring, summer, just so that I can finish it as fast as I could instead of taking that winter and summer break. I didn't take a break.
Right,
so,
right.
I just condensed that last year. I did what I could.
Are you happy you did it?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
You would do it over again.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason why I did it was because I was auditioning for roles that were right on the cusp of like, could be a teenager, could be a young adult type of thing. And I would always lose out to the person who was over 18 or graduated from high school, because then you can work as a legal adult. You know what I mean? And that became the thing. So I was like, damn, I feel like I'm this close. Let me just push through. You know what I mean? And school was school. I was going to go to college anyway. So I didn't feel like I was missing anything. That was a little strange though, being in college that young. It was like the conversation of every single day. Every person that I met was just always asking me, what am I doing here?
I mean, I can't compare. I was certainly not that impressive, but I started med school at 20.
Wow. No, that's very impressive.
And at the end of our first exam, we all went out for drinks.
And you couldn't drink.
And they wouldn't let me in the bar. And it was so awkward. And I was like, shit, I'm so young. And even...
So get this.
Embarrassing.
when I was in college, I picked up culinary arts and I started
I saw
studying.
that too. I was going to ask
Yeah,
you. This guy's
I
all over
started
the place.
studying culinary arts and restaurant management, and I
Okay.
couldn't finish my program for two reasons. One was the advanced baking thing that I needed to do. It came at the same time that I started working, so I couldn't do that. And the other one that I had to prolong was the food and beverage, the wine portion, because I couldn't
You're
drink.
too young.
So
Right, right, right.
I had to actually just wait to turn 21 so that I can take that class so that I could finish my certificate program,
Wow.
which was I never finished it.
I mean,
I
are you still in the kitchen at all? Do you,
oh yeah.
as a
Oh
hobby, do
yeah.
you cook or barbecue or whatever?
I do
Anything?
both. I do everything. Yeah, man.
Wow.
I do everything. I still make doughs when we make pizzas or desserts or pies or whatever. I throw down with my mom like around the holidays, but for the most part, I just cook like day-to-day stuff for like I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I'm cooking stuff that she'll eat.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I mean, I think
Yeah,
the
it's my
closest,
favorite. It's my favorite pastime. My favorite hobby.
100%. The closest I
Yeah.
get is pancakes on Sundays with my daughter. But
Okay.
it's
Pancakes on
something.
Sunday sounds like a
Yeah,
tradition that
yeah.
I can, yeah, that I can
It's
mess with.
definitely something. So you
Yeah,
already
man.
knew at 15. Like, I mean, that's impressive in terms of like the conviction, right? Like
Mm,
nowadays, no judgment against this generation, but at 15, I don't see kids really knowing where they're headed or what they want to do, or at least that's not the norm.
right.
It's impressive
Yeah.
that you kind of had your head on straight at 15 and realized like I got to do this and this to hustle and get, where I got to be.
Yeah. I mean, I have very driven, focused parents, and they're smart. They're smart enough to ask questions, and they were always pretty strict and pretty hard on me and my sister. It was like straight A's, no B's type of household. So, as I started to approach the end of my high school years, they were already asking me, you need a plan A and a plan B. What's that look like? What do you want to do? What interests you, whatever it was, they supported us in that way. But we did have to have something, and we had to dedicate a certain amount of time to it, and we had to at least try to be good at it, whatever it was. And if we changed direction, then we changed direction. But they were all about being all in, very, very driven folks. They did a lot for themselves and for their family as well. So they instilled that in me and my sister. I
So,
can't take all the credit
no,
for that.
that's huge. That's huge, and I think a lot of people wish that for their kids and try to pass that on to their kids. Much easier said than
Yeah,
done. But
right.
they were successful with you, which is impressive and solid, and hats off to them for that. One thing
Yeah.
that's interesting about your story is it kind of tells itself with a lot of highlights.
Uh-huh.
With high school, with the culinary arts,
Yeah.
with your acting, almost too good to be true. Curious,
Always.
yeah. But I'm curious. What would you say is like? What are some of the lowlights where you felt like everything's going to shit and you're struggling and you got to pick up and dust
Oh
off
man.
and not lose hope? Where's that in your story?
That's in between every highlight, to be honest with you. Yeah, let's just be, that's
Yeah.
life though. It's highs and lows, constant highs and lows. It's like there's always the other side to the coin with everything. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved graduating high school early and starting the culinary arts journey, but I never felt like I belonged in that place. I always felt like I was an outsider. And it was kind of a lonely time. My college years was like the closest person that I would meet was probably 4 years older than me,
Hmm.
and I couldn't relate to anyone in a lot of ways. I had a great group of friends, fortunately, but once you start doing this, then it's like I can't see them or whatever it is. We're in opposing schedules because college schedules are the exact opposite of high school schedules. So all my friends that were doing their thing, I'm taking night classes. So it's like, there's moments like that. There's tons of moments in the career where things start to slow down and I just really start to tell myself that this is not what I want to do.
Hmm.
That happens a lot as a young actor coming up. It just doesn't seem like a feasible thing to have a sustainable career in this business for a long time. Even after like big highs, I'm talking series regular roles and then no calls for a year or,
Wow.
whatever it is. And sometimes you just feel like, okay, you finally have momentum and then your entire infrastructure falls apart. In this business, agents leave and go to other companies or start to do other business ventures. And then the next person that you're working with just doesn't give a shit about what you have going in your career. They have their 20 clients. And then
Right.
you just you fall through the crack and you realize like, oh, this is not as dependable as I thought it was.
Yeah,
Maybe I shouldn't have put my eggs in this basket.
it does
That's
look very
something.
glamorous on the outside. I'll tell
Oh
you that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
No, the struggle of being a working actor is always existent.
yeah,
It never
struggle's
goes
real.
away. It
Yeah.
never goes away. You know what I mean? Unless you're like, Tom Cruise. I don't know. but other than that, like there's always this constant grind. There's always this constant questioning of like, okay, will I get another job? I don't know.
Mm.
You really don't know. Like some things do come in, some things work out every so often, but for the most part, you do have to wake up and go for it. Just as I did before you knew who I was, and just as I'll have to now. It's sort of the same constant struggle. It's that mental game that does start to creep in, and it happens to all of us. As an actor, that's a conversation that we have amongst ourselves all the time. Is we always have to sort of check on each other, like how you doing? You know what I mean? How you feeling? It's an important thing because those outside voices, they're just always in our heads.
Yeah,
they're always in our head.
and they're real, and they can get the best of you too.
Oh
Especially
yeah.
if it's like too much time has passed. You start like
Oh
you
yeah.
start like believing the nonsense, like and all those noises, and it's super distracting. It can kill your motivation. Curious,
Yeah.
what advice would you give somebody who right now is listening and maybe they had a couple of highs, but right now they're going through a low and they're starting to lose hope? What advice would you give them in terms of how they would navigate that?
I think, for me, I can make it personal. For me, if those thoughts start to come in and I feel like I can't really see my way through, I just put my attention on what my goal is. And I wake up every day and I try to do one thing that gets me towards that goal. I feel like it helps you focus on the smaller wins rather than the big, large thing that just seems so far away. Those tiny little bites of progression or success or whatever it is, they are kind of satisfactory, especially in slow moments and slow times. If it's booking a job, maybe you spend one day and the goal is just to read the script. It's not even to book the job. Just read the script this day. The next day, get involved in the character and just learn all the lines. Small things, you know what I mean? The things that actually do lead to booking the job. But I'm not focused on, I need to book this job. I'm just focused on, I need to read this script. I'm focused on, I need to learn these lines. You know what I mean? I'm focused on, I need a tape that I like. And then I'm focused on whatever the next thing is. Even when you're in the job, sometimes these things start to come in. You feel like you're not performing to the level that you wish you could or whatever. There's so many things that can come in to sort of throw you off your game.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same mindset. I go to sleep thinking, I'm not trying to make this show a success. I'm going to sleep thinking, I just want to remember my lines tomorrow. As long as I feel I can go to sleep happy and comfortable knowing that I will remember my lines tomorrow because I know them that well. It's a very small piece of the puzzle, but it's important in that moment. And I think focusing on those smaller pieces, those smaller bites, makes the large thing a lot easier to handle.
And interesting, what you're saying actually is really big in the treatment of substance use disorder, that you take it one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to think of sobriety as your North Star, you're very likely to fail. And what you want to do is take baby steps where you want to cut back today. You want to avoid going to parties where you might be tempted, or you want to not be in contact with someone in your life that's very triggering, right? You just focus with your kind of head down one day at a time. Otherwise, if you look up and you see the height of the mountain you're climbing, you'll paralyze yourself and you won't even keep climbing. Right. So it's just one foot ahead of the other. You take those baby steps. Is the same philosophy that we tell people that are trying to achieve sobriety or pursue a life of recovery. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It seems like an easier way for us to sort of handle things that seem larger than what we're capable of doing. Just one little bite at a time. It's the same thing with fitness. It's the same thing with a lot of things that we're chasing.
For sure.
Yeah.
What do you tell your daughter? Does she want to pursue a career in acting?
I think she wants to pursue a career in being a performer, but I
Okay.
don't know if it's necessarily acting. So her mother is a musician and she sings, and so she's involved in, music in that way. Like she plays a little bit of piano, a little bit of guitar, and she can sing pretty well. She dances, and then she just did a school play. She's done like a few little things in the acting world with me. And I have some reps for her, but I'm very casual about how she goes about moving in the industry. You know what I mean? Whatever direction she wants to go, because I feel like she's so enveloped in it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Like, I think with my parents, they were like, okay, if you like dancing and singing, then train in dancing and singing, whatever styles that you like, and then let's pursue that. But with her, I'm like, try everything, drop it next week if you want to. It doesn't matter because it's always around you.
Yeah.
I don't want to push her in any direction. I just want her to naturally find it. Like, it seemed like just yesterday she had no rhythm and couldn't hold a note. And now she's pretty good. It's just
That's
like
awesome.
playing around with it. Sometimes it interests her a little bit more. Sometimes she finds an artist that she really likes and she wants to sing like that person. And, she just adds that to her repertoire. And I think because she's surrounded by the business and the industries and the avenues, I would like her to sort of just naturally flow into something that she actually loves, if it is in this business. And if it's not, that's perfectly fine. But it is kind of nice to watch her do like her school play and nail her lines and, and look at me in the crowd like, did you see it? Yeah.
That's good. The apple didn't fall too far from
having
the tree.
those same moments too.
Yeah.
No,
That's kind of nice.
absolutely.
You can see, the fruits of your labor, and you see kind of she's a part of you, which is huge.
Yes.
That is a lot of fun that you get to see her succeeding, right? That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. I feel like it means more to me than it does to her. She doesn't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they say a lot of. I mean, you see this with like parents who were athletes too. If their kids are outshining them, it's a nice feeling to see them on the field and
wow,
proud moment.
Absolutely, yeah. Shout out to LeBron James, man. Just pass the ball to Bronny and he hits the shot. You're like, yes,
that's it.
That's incredible. Yeah.
So talk to me about what the future holds for you. A lot of people, are trying to figure out where you're headed and follow your career. And we were talking about how, in the career, there's a lot of ups and downs and surprises, but what do you have up your sleeve?
Oh man. Well, I'm always sort of on the lookout for what the next long-term thing is. I don't think that I'm in the place of like building something out in that way myself. So I'm always just sort of looking to see what that is. So I'm still in that position. I don't know what the next long-term job, I don't know what the next television series may be, or, saga or something of that nature. But I'm reading a lot of stuff. I read everything. I do want to do things that are a little heavier in terms of the material. I think the heavier stuff, even on The Boys, just felt like home to me. That's sort of a lot of what my background was. There was a lot of singing and dancing, but there was also a lot of, like heavy dramas and crime shows and Shakespeare tragedy, things of that nature. So a lot of my training was in that. So I felt very comfortable there. I hadn't worked those muscles in a while. I was doing a lot of comedies for a while. So the heavier material is definitely something that's on my mind. I've restructured my team quite a bit so that we can work on developing projects of my own. So, I have a great management team at LRE, Luber Rockland Entertainment, and IAG is my agency now.
Nice.
And, we're very focused on development of, original IP, but also taking projects that I would be a great fit for, and then just sort of adding a couple components to it and then taking it out to the market and just doing some things from that side. So, that's sort of where my focus is, telling my own stories, and then just looking for the thing that, that I can't see coming. It's sort of like fishing a little bit. You sort of throw your line in and you hope for a yellowfin, but whatever bites, you're like, okay, let's reel this thing in and let's do what we can with it. So it's a little bit of both, No,
it's exciting, right? Maybe there's a little bit of anxiety there too, because you kind of.
But it's fun to play around in the anxiety. I feel like that's the nature of the game.
It is.
It's like the nature of our game is highs and lows. It's ups and downs. It's busy, extremely busy weeks and then extremely quiet weeks. And I just like being in that position where I feel like I'm back on the grind to sort of see what else is out there and what we can do. So
yeah, you can get
I'm excited. You can get creative. You can start a character from scratch, which is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really enjoyed our conversation, hearing what you're up to and a little bit of your background. And it's great, really.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very
Me
much
too.
for taking some time to connect. You're
Of course.
obviously always welcome back on the show.
Thank you, Dr. T. I appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. I wish you the best of luck moving forward as you figure out and navigate what's next for you.
Thank you, sir.
Confident no matter what you touch, it'll be successful. So
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, thank you very much for joining us. My good friend Jessie T. Usher joining us today for a great conversation. We look forward to seeing you back here at Candid Minds with Dr. T soon.